The air inside the lab was cold, too cold for comfort. Leo pulled his coat tighter as he walked past glass tubes and glowing lights. He was a young human scientist working on a deep space research station. They called it Base Deltanine, hidden. In a far corner of the galaxy, this place was famous for strange science. Secret test sand, sometimes. Things no one wanted to talk about. Today felt different. Something was bothering Leo from the moment he woke up. When he reached the main hallway, 2 guards were standing beside a thick metal door. One of them nodded at him and said, "She's here." Leo blinked. "Who?" "The alien girl they rescued from the meat market," the guard replied. "They want you to test the serum on her." Leo's heart sank. He had heard about those auctions, where poor alien girls were sold like animals, some for parts, some for worse. He hated it. That's why he made the serum. To help those rescued aliens recover from trauma and pain, but using it on someone who just escaped slavery. That felt wrong. Still, orders were orders. He walked into the chamber, and the door closed behind him with a heavy sound. Inside the room, sitting quietly on a soft floor mat, was the alien girl. She looked no older than 20 in human years. Her skin had a soft pink glow, and her long ears twitched slightly at every sound. She wore a loose lab shirt that covered her thin body, but her bare feet were curled like she was scared. Her golden eyes watched him as he walked in. Not blinking, just waiting. Leo approached slowly and spoke softly. "Hi, I'm Leo." She didn't reply. Her eyes lowered to the bottle in his hand. The serum. He noticed her arms were trembling, and her lips looked dry. Was she hungry? Cold? Scared? Instead of giving the serum, he reached into his bag and pulled out a protein bar. He knelt down and offered it. "Eat first." She stared at it for a moment, then slowly took it with both hands and nibbled it carefully, like she wasn't sure if it was real. As she ate, Leo noticed tears forming in her eyes. He sat beside her, not too close, just enough to let her know she wasn't alone. After a few minutes, he gently held out the bottle. "This is a healing serum," he said. "It will calm your body, help your mind rest, and maybe take the pain away." She looked at it, then at him. For the first time, she spoke. Her voice was weak, but clear. "You? Not hurt?" Leo's chest tightened. "No," he said. "Never." She reached out, touched the bottle, then brought it to her lips and drank it slowly. The liquid was clear blue, tasteless and warm. At first, nothing happened. She closed her eyes and leaned back slightly against the wall. Then suddenly her cheeks turned pink, bright, glowing pink. Leo blinked. "What?" The girl opened her eyes and looked at him, her face growing redder by the second. She quickly covered her face with her hands, hiding a deep blush. Her breathing became faster, and her ears flicked nervously. Leo stood up. "Worried, are you?" "Okay. What's happening?" She didn't answer, just kept looking at him between her fingers, eyes wide and burning. Her whole body seemed warm now. It wasn't panic, it was something else, something emotional. She wasn't crying, wasn't angry. She looked embarrassed, even shy. A voice came from the intercom above. "Dr. Leo, report status." He answered quickly. "She's reacting to the serum, but not how we expected." The girl suddenly moved closer to him, kneeling just beside his leg, still covering her face, still blushing. She reached out and gently grabbed his sleeve, not to stop him, but to stay close. Leo's heart beat faster. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself. The door opened again, and a senior officer stepped in with 2 others. They stared at the girl and frowned. "Is she bonding with you?" Leo shook his head. "I didn't mean to. It was just a calming serum." But the girl leaned against him now, not letting go, her red cheeks glowing, her golden eyes fixed only on him. The officer pulled Leo aside. "You might have triggered something primal in her species," he said. "Instinct, emotion, or worse, mating response." Leo looked back at the girl, who now sat silently, still holding onto his coat, still blushing, and for the first time since arriving at the lab, she looked safe. Not because of the serum, but because of him outside. The chamber, scientists began whispering. Inside, the alien girl closed her eyes and smiled gently. Whatever had started, it couldn't be undone, and Leo knew this was no normal reaction. The next morning, Leo entered the lab earlier than usual. He hadn't slept much, not after what happened last night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the alien girl's blushing face. That soft, golden gaze locked only on him. Her fingers curled around his sleeve like he was her anchor. He walked into the observation room and tapped on the glass gently. Inside, the alien girl was already awake, sitting cross-legged with her hands folded in her lap. The moment she saw Leo, her cheeks turned bright pink again, and her ears twitched excitedly. She stood up quickly and came to the glass like a kitten seeing her owner. Leo sighed and turned to the assistant beside him. "Has she eaten?" The assistant looked annoyed. She refused food from everyone, even me. Leo frowned. That's not good. She needs nutrition. He entered the chamber again, careful not to startle her. As soon as he stepped in, she ran to him, not fast, but like she wanted to be near without scaring him. She stood close, looking up with her glowing face. Not saying a word, Leo held out a small meal tray. "Will you eat now?" She looked at it, then gently placed her hand on top of his, guiding the tray closer, only when he offered it. Did she eat, bite by bite, while sitting beside him like a shy shadow? "Why only me?" He whispered softly. She paused and said in a broken, soft voice, "You." Safe. Leo looked at her and felt a strange ache in his chest. She didn't trust the guards, didn't respond to the doctors. But she followed him like a lost child finds home. From that moment, everyone in the lab noticed. She obeyed Leo's words only. She followed him in the halls, sat outside his quarters when he slept, and once, when someone tried to touch her, she growled a deep, sudden sound that made everyone freeze. The guard backed away fast, eyes wide. "She nearly bit me." Leo was called to the control center that evening. The lab commander, Dr. Ralvik, stared at him coldly. "You gave her the serum, and now she's obsessed with you," he said. Leo defended himself. "I followed protocol. It was meant to reduce stress. I didn't expect this." Dr. Ralvik narrowed his eyes. "This may be worse than stress. She's displaying signs of attachment, romantic, or maybe instinctual mating behavior." Leo shook his head. "No, she's just scared. She feels safe with me, that's all." Back in her room, the alien girl sat hugging a piece of Leo's old lab coat. She held it close to her chest like a child holds a stuffed toy. Her cheeks stayed red, her breathing soft. Every time someone else entered her chamber, she looked around them and asked one question: "Where Leo?" Late that night, Leo found her waiting in the hallway outside his door. She was barefoot, holding a blanket, her head down. He panicked. "Nira, you can't be out here." She looked up at him and whispered, "I can't sleep, not alone." Leo sighed, not knowing what to do, but he couldn't send her back. Not like this. He let her come in and sit on the floor with her blanket near his bed. He didn't touch her, didn't say anything more, but she looked peaceful. Her tail curled around her legs. She whispered, "Thank you for not hurting." Leo turned away, but inside, his heart felt something growing, soft, protective, dangerous. This wasn't just an experiment anymore. The next morning, chaos broke out in the lab. Another alien subject, one from a different species, had gone berserk and smashed a table. Security rushed to subdue it, weapons drawn. Nira heard the noise and stood in front of Leo protectively, arms wide, her face serious. She didn't move until the danger passed. The guards whispered she'd die for him. One scientist muttered, This is not love. This is imprinting. But Leo saw something else. Not programming. Not madness, but a girl who had nothing, and found her entire world in one human. He sat with her later that night and asked gently, "Why do you follow me?" Neera blushed, looked down, then said quietly, "Because, when I look at you, I feel warm." Leo didn't speak, couldn't speak. And from the glass window, unseen by both, the cameras kept recording. Outside the research base, a signal was sent to higher authorities. The message was short. Subject 7 has formed a unique bond. Unknown danger or unknown miracle. Neera sat quietly in the corner of the room, her knees tucked to her chest. Leo watched her through the one-way glass, heart heavy with confusion. Her cheeks were still warm, still blushing softly. It had been 3 days since she took the serum. And the effects hadn't stopped, not even for a minute. Every time he came close, her skin glowed pink. Her breathing changed and her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper. She tried to hide it, but her body couldn't lie. The lab team had started recording her reactions each time Leo entered. Her pulse doubled, her temperature rose by 3 degrees once when he looked into her eyes for too long. She fainted. The scanners picked it all up, and the data didn't make sense to anyone. "She's chemically bonded to you," said Dr. Silin, an alien neuroscientist. "It's like your presence activates her nervous system like an instinct." From older times, Leo shook his head. "But she's not my pet. She's not a science test. She's person." Dr. Silin adjusted his glasses. "Her species has never shown this reaction before," he said softly. "Not to their own kind, not to any kind." Later that evening, Leo tried to keep his distance. He didn't want to cause her discomfort or embarrassment anymore. He stayed in his quarters, kept his door closed, and ignored the camera feed. But when he finally gave in and checked the screen, Neera was sitting alone in her room, holding her knees, eyes wide and watery. She hadn't eaten, hadn't moved. She whispered something to herself over and over, and the audio picked it up. "Where did he go? Did I do wrong? I feel cold." Leo's chest tightened. He rushed to her room, and as soon as the door opened, Neera looked up, gasped, and her entire body glowed. Her cheeks blushed so hard they looked like glowing fire. She stood and stumbled into his arms. Leo froze, shocked, but then gently held her up. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I thought you needed space." She looked at him with tears in her golden eyes. "I only feel alive when you're near," she said softly, her voice almost cracking. They sat down together on the padded floor, and Neera slowly relaxed again. Her heart rate steadied. Her breathing softened only when he was close. Leo reached for a small med scanner and gently moved it across her back. The readings were clear. Her body had fully linked to his scent, presence, and even voice frequency. This wasn't just emotional. It was physical, chemical, real. Dr. Silin joined them inside the room, holding a tablet. "We ran hormone tests," he said quietly. "And you need to see this." He handed Leo the screen. The results showed a storm of alien neurochemicals, most like a mating cycle, but triggered by Leo's presence, not biology. Neera had no idea what was happening inside her, but it was changing her from the inside out. Silin continued. "We think the serum you gave her unlocked suppressed instincts, deep emotions her kind has forgotten or buried." Leo looked at Neera, who now held his sleeve gently with her fingers. She didn't understand the science, but she could feel the connection. She looked up at him and asked, "Is it wrong to feel this way?" Leo shook his head. "No, it's not wrong, but it's dangerous. Others may not understand." Neera smiled shyly and whispered, "Then we hide." Leo laughed gently. "That's not easy in a lab full of cameras," but she rested her head on his arm anyway. not caring who watched. That night, Leo received a private message from Central Command. It read, "Subject 7 is emotionally compromised. Scientist Leo may be removed from assignment." He stared at the message, feeling like someone punched him in the chest. The next day, Leo avoided Nira again. He didn't want to leave, but he also didn't want to hurt her by staying too close. Nira noticed it immediately. She searched the halls for him, ignored her food again, and when another scientist tried to scan her, she screamed, a high, broken sound that echoed through the base. Leo ran to her room as alarms went off. When he entered, she collapsed into his arms again, crying like a child. Her voice cracked through her tears. "Why are you pushing me away?" Leo didn't answer, just held her close, and in that moment, with her warm body trembling against him, he realized it was too late to walk away. Whatever this was, it had already changed both of them forever. It was past midnight, and the station was silent. Most lights had dimmed, except for the soft blue glow in the halls. Leo sat alone in his quarters. Staring at the ceiling, he hadn't slept well for days, not since the serum changed everything. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Nira's face, the way her cheeks burned bright. How her golden eyes filled with longing. She wasn't just reacting to the serum anymore, she was reacting to him. He kept telling himself it was just biology, just chemicals in her system. But every time she touched his arm or whispered his name, his heart told a different story. He turned off the screen in front of him and got ready to rest. Just as he sat on the edge of his bed, he heard it, a soft knock. 3 times slow. His heart jumped. No one ever came to his door this late. He stood up quietly, walked over, and opened it there. She was Nira. She stood barefoot in the hallway. Wearing only a long-sleeve shirt, she held a small blanket in her hands. Her face was flushed, but not from sickness. Her eyes were wide, her lips trembling. She didn't speak. She just stepped inside without asking. Leo closed the door gently behind her. Stunned, "Nira, what are you doing here?" he asked softly. She stood in the middle of the room, not moving. Then, without warning, she placed the blanket on the floor and knelt down. She looked up at him with burning cheeks. "I had a dream," she whispered. "You left." "I couldn't breathe." Leo took a breath, trying to stay calm. "I didn't leave," he said gently. "I'm still here." "But you shouldn't be in my room, Nira." She lowered her head, her ears twitching nervously. "I feel wrong when I sleep alone now," she said, voice shaking when I close my eyes. "My body gets cold unless I think of you." He sat on the edge of his bed, unsure what to do. "Nira, this isn't right. Someone will see. They'll misunderstand." But she looked at him with eyes full of trust. "I don't care what they think," she whispered. "I'm not a lab rat. I'm a living soul. And you made me feel that again." She crawled toward him slowly, stopping just before his feet. She rested her head lightly on his knee. Her voice was barely a whisper. "If I must beg to stay near you, I will." Leo's hands trembled. He could feel her warmth through the thin fabric of his clothes. This wasn't a game. This was real, raw emotion from a girl who had never been allowed to feel before. "Nira, you don't need to beg," he whispered. She looked up at him, smiling shyly through her blush. "Then, let me stay here, just like this." He helped her sit beside the bed, gave her a pillow, and folded his blanket over her. She curled up on the floor like a small animal seeking safety. And before long, her eyes slowly closed, her breathing softened. She was at peace. Leo sat back on the bed, unable to stop staring at her. She looked so fragile, yet strong enough to cross every boundary just to be near him. What was he to her? A protector, a trigger, a soulmate. He didn't know, but her smile, even in sleep, told him she wasn't afraid anymore. The next morning, alarms blared across the station. Security footage had detected unauthorized movement in his hallway. The commander stormed into his quarters. Just after sunrise, he found Leo on the bed, and Nira still sleeping peacefully on the floor beside him. "What is the meaning of this?" the commander demanded. Leo stood quickly. "She came here on her own." "She was scared," the commander sneered. "Do you know what this looks like?" "I didn't touch her," Leo said firmly. "But if you remove me from her life now, it might break her completely." Behind them, Nira stirred awake. Rubbing her eyes, she looked up, saw the strangers, and immediately crawled to Leo, grabbing his hand like a lifeline. Her blush deepened, but her voice didn't shake. "I chose him," she said clearly. "No one told me to. No one made me feel. I just do." The room fell silent. Even the commander didn't know what to say. Leo looked down at her, and for the first time, he realized something powerful. Nira wasn't the only one who had bonded somewhere between fear and kindness. He had. 2. The news traveled faster than anyone expected. Within one solar day, a transmission reached the Galactic Ethics Council. It included a short video, just a few seconds long. In it, an alien girl knelt beside a human's bed, curled under a blanket, cheeks glowing red, and behind the camera, lab personnel whispered, "She came on her own. She won't leave his side." The council wasn't pleased. They summoned Leo and Nira to the Central Review Hall aboard Station High Point, a massive orbital facility where cases like this were judged. This wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. It had become an interspecies scandal. Leo sat in a cold chair, surrounded by long-robed officials, humans, aliens, synthetic minds, all watching him with blank expressions. Beside him sat Nira, hands folded in her lap, ears lowered, but face calm. She still blushed when she looked at him, but this time, she held her chin high. A large screen behind the council played scenes from the lab. Nira refusing food unless Leo gave it. Nira growling at guards. Nira sneaking into his room and whispering, "I feel cold without you." Every frame painted a dangerous picture, one that could be twisted either way. The lead counselor, a tall being with glowing white eyes, spoke first. "Dr. Leo, you are accused of emotional tampering with a rescued alien female. Did you, or did you not manipulate her responses using a classified serum?" Leo stood slowly and replied, "I did give her the serum, but it was meant for healing trauma, not control. I didn't know it would unlock." "Whatever this is," the counselor raised a hand. "And yet, she clings to you, sleeps beside you, fights for you." Another counselor added, "She shows signs of early bonding unusual for her species. Oh, she's attached to you like a mate." Whispers filled the chamber. Some officials looked disgusted, others curious, and a few sympathetic. Then Nira stood, without being asked. Her eyes scanned the room, then focused on the glowing counselor. Her voice shook slightly, but grew stronger with each word. "You say I was controlled," she said, "but no one forced me to cry when he left the room. No one made my skin heat when he smiled. No one told me to crawl to his door in the night. My soul did." She turned to the other side of the chamber. "You say I was a victim. Maybe I was before he gave me food without asking for anything. Before he spoke to me like I was more than a number. Before he treated me like I was worth saving." Then she stepped forward and placed her hand on Leo's chest. "Look at me now," she said. "I am warm. I am awake. I am alive, and it's because of this man." The chamber fell silent. Some counselors shifted uncomfortably. Others looked away. But one soft voice among them asked Nira, "Do you love him?" She blushed deeply, but did not look away. "I don't know your word love fully," she said slowly. "But I know this: when he's near, I want to exist. And when he's gone, I feel lost." Leo's heart trembled. He didn't expect her to defend him like this, not in front of so many strangers, not with such open honesty. The lead counselor took a long pause, then said, "This case is no longer about science. It's about freedom. If her feelings are genuine, we cannot declare them illegal." A motion was called. Half of the council voted for further testing. The other half, including 3 alien elders, voted for her right to choose her future, and so it was decided. Nira would not be treated as a subject anymore. She was free to stay with Leo. But on one condition, their connection would be monitored closely to ensure no hidden influence remained. As they left the hall, Leo looked at her and asked, "Why did you speak like that?" She smiled gently and touched her red cheek. "Because I wasn't supposed to feel," she whispered, "and now I feel everything." For you, they walked out hand in hand, the galaxy watching in silence. And though questions still remained, one thing was clear: Nira had made her choice. The stars outside the station shimmered like quiet witnesses, but inside the docking bay of Station High Point, the air turned heavy. Leo stood beside Nira, holding her hand as a strange ship landed. It wasn't human nor council class. It belonged to her kind. The vessel opened slowly, steam hissing from its sides. Out came a group of tall alien figures dressed in traditional silver robes. Their faces looked like Nira's, but older, colder, and without any warmth in their eyes. One male stepped forward, taller than the rest. His voice deep and sharp. "Daughter," he said. Nira froze, her hand squeezing Leo's hard. She didn't speak, just lowered her head, lips trembling. Leo looked at her, confused. "Is he?" She whispered back, "My father." The elder's eyes narrowed at Leo. "You, human. What spell have you cast on my child?" Leo stayed calm. "No spell. I gave her safety, food, respect." The elder growled. "You touched her spirit. You broke our laws." Another female stepped forward, her mother maybe, and added she was to be returned for proper use. Not corrupted. Leo's stomach twisted. Returned? For what? Nira stepped in front of him, her body trembling. "No," she said, voice shaking. "I won't go with you," her father barked. "You will obey your blood." Nira turned to face him, cheeks already blushing. "Not with attraction but rage. You sold me," she said coldly. "You traded me for water rations like a broken object." Everyone fell silent. "You said I was weak. Said I couldn't bear heirs. You said I had no future in the clan," she said. "But he," she pointed at Leo, voice cracking, "he gave me a name, not a number. He gave me a reason to keep breathing." Her father's eyes flickered, but his tone remained harsh. "You carry our blood. You belong with your own." Nira's voice grew stronger. "No. I belong with the one who didn't abandon me." The aliens surrounded them, trying to pressure her. "You will be forgotten if you stay with him," her mother said. Nira's voice shook. "Then forget me. I'd rather be memory in your mind than misery in your home." Suddenly, her legs gave out too much stress, too much fear. She collapsed, and Leo caught her just in time. Her skin burned hot to hot. Her body was entering shock, not just from the moment, but from being near the very ones who once discarded her. "Call the med unit." Leo yelled, holding her close. She whispered, barely awake, "Please, don't let them take me." "I won't," he said. "I swear it." Security rushed in and separated the aliens from the couple. The elders tried to argue, but the council intervened. A voice rang through the hall. "Enough. This girl has declared her will end in this system. Will is law." Her father gave one last glare, then turned away. "You have lost your name among us," he said coldly. "And you lost your daughter the day you sold her." Leo replied, "Ours." Later, Nira rested in the med bay, eyes closed, heartbeat slow. Leo sat beside her, holding her hand, her skin still warm, but no longer burning. She looked peaceful again, like the storm had passed. When she woke, she looked up and asked quietly, "Did they go?" Leo smiled, brushing hair from her face. "Yes," he said. "You chose freedom and they couldn't stop it." She smiled too, but her eyes were sad. "They were my blood," she said, "but they never felt like family. You do, Leo." Didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. He just stayed with her, hand in hand, and that night, as she drifted to sleep, she whispered one last thing: "Thank you for being the home they never gave me." The twin suns rose gently over the hills of New Terra. It was a peaceful colony, far from the noise of warships, council halls, and experiments. Children played near tall trees, families built homes with their own hands, and in a quiet cabin near the edge of a forest, a human and an alien girl lived quietly together. Leo stepped outside, holding 2 cups of hot herbal mix. The wind was cool. The air smelled of flowers and wood smoke. He looked down the hill where a small garden had started to bloom. There she was, Nira, wearing a light dress humans had sewn for her. Her pink skin glowed softly in the sunlight. Her long ears danced with the breeze, and as always, when she turned to see Leo, her cheeks flushed warm, red, and bright. She blushed every day, without fail, even now. Months after the serum, after the council, after her people turned away, it never stopped. Because it wasn't just the serum anymore, was her heart. Leo walked down and handed her the drink. She took it gently, sipping it while keeping her eyes low, then giggled softly. "You stare too much," Leo grinned. "You blush too much." She stuck her tongue out in playful defiance, then blushed harder. They both laughed. Later that afternoon, neighbors from the colony came to visit. They brought fresh bread and simple gifts, blankets, spices, and even jewelry made of carved stone. The colony elders approached Leo and said, "She's part of this community now, a full citizen. And we're glad you brought her." When Nira heard this, she stood shyly behind Leo, her hands folded. But when the elder bowed slightly to her in respect, she cried. Quiet tears rolled down her cheeks, and her voice shook as she said, "Thank you. No one ever bowed to me before." That evening, under the twin moons, the colony held a small celebration. It wasn't official or planned, just a gathering under lantern lights. Someone played soft music on a stringed instrument. Children danced around Nira, curious about her ears and eyes. She smiled at them, laughing softly, and her blush returned, stronger than ever. Leo stepped forward, holding something in his hands, a necklace, handmade, with a small crystal that glowed like her cheeks. He knelt down, not as a joke, not as a proposal, but as a gesture. "You once begged just to stay near me," he said. "Now I beg to keep you beside me for as long as you'll have me." Gasps rose in the crowd. Nira covered her face, overwhelmed, her entire skin glowing pink and red. Then slowly, she reached forward, took the necklace, and placed it around her own neck. She whispered, "Then I am yours, and you are mine." The people clapped. Someone threw flower petals in the air, and a child shouted, "The blushing bride is real." Leo laughed, and Nira hid her face in his chest, but she was smiling. And for the first time in her life, her blush came from joy, not fear. Days turned to weeks, and Nira grew into her new life. She learned to cook with local plants, helped build homes, and even started teaching alien script to human kids. Everywhere she went, people smiled at her. She had become a symbol, a living story of survival, freedom, and strange but beautiful love. One afternoon, a reporter from Earth arrived. Curious about the couple, she asked Nira, "What changed your life the most?" Nira blushed has Ols and replied, "Someone looked at me and didn't see a subject. He saw someone worth holding, worth listening to. He saw my soul. The reporter asked Leo. "And what about you? Did you ever expect this?" Leo smiled, looking at Neera from across the field. "No," he said, "but the day her hand touched mine. The day her cheeks turned pink just for me. I realized I wasn't saving her. She was saving me too." That night, they sat together near the river. Her head on his shoulder, the stars above blinked slowly, and Neera whispered the words she had been too shy to say all this time. "I love you, Leo." He looked down, kissed her blushing forehead, and whispered back, "I know, Neera. I always knew."